Alright guys, so today is basically just going to be my first video. It's going to be my introduction to my current shop, just so that if nothing else I have a record of where I kind of, not really started because I've been accumulating tools for a couple of years now, but kind of just decided to call it a shop instead of just sharing my garage with some tools and my wife's car. So today is, like I said, going to be an introduction to my shop as it currently stands, so that in the future, as I start to add tools and get a little bit more serious about my projects and making or that sort of stuff, I kind of have an idea of where I started. Part of it is to show as well any of you on YouTube that just have a couple of tools, don't have a dedicated space, don't have great space. Don't let that stop you from being a maker. There's a lot of great stuff you can make without having a lot of tools. It actually, sometimes those challenges invite you to be more creative with how you get things done, and sometimes can provide more creative solutions as opposed to somebody that has a perfect tool for every problem. The solutions have been found, and so sometimes those things can lack some creativity. So just kind of record making, and maybe just some of you starters or whatever, becoming makers, looking for an inspiration or something, maybe I can give that to you. So let me show you around. All right, so I think I'm gonna kind of do this vlog style, if you will. Not sure how well it's gonna work, but just give you an idea of what I'm working with here. Like I said earlier, I do share this garage with my wife, and her car sits in that area, of course. Built a little bit of a coat storage and shelf for my deer hunting gear and some of that sort of stuff so that I can stay outside, not take a ton of space in the house, as well as some of our seasonal clothes. I got the chest freezer. I put a little shelf up there. That's pretty much how I heat my garage. It's insulated but doesn't actually have a heater. When I start projects, I have borrowed actually my dad's propane heater here. So we got 20-pound cylinder there with the propane heater. It actually heats it up really nice. The little heater over here keeps it, stops it from freezing, which is kind of nice for the wife's car and keeping some stuff out here, but it really isn't enough for doing projects. So like I said, kick in the propane heater. I've got a workbench here that I bought as a kit from Menards years ago. It's rickety, it sucks. It's a project that we're working on, planning to replace in the future. I built this shelf a couple of years ago. It was a pain in the butt. A lot of Google SketchUp and engineering went into planning this. These little rails were a pain to glue, so kind of a cool little project there. Just did this here a couple of days ago, some tool storage there. Got a 2x4 that I just drilled a bunch of holes into and toe-nailed for some storage there. Really messy workbench. My wife and I bought this house a little over a year ago, and really just starting to get the garage unpacked. We've got some storage here for little bits and pieces of hardware. The air hose, we've got the air compressor there, little bits of storage down here, and Blaze making his internet debut. So just kind of put some screws in some places so that stuff doesn't take as much counter space. So that's kind of what the thought was there. Got my Evolution chop saw, miter saw, compound miter saw. This is a really cool saw. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, so if you're starting out, this maybe isn't the right saw to start with. Cheaper option is definitely out there. I bought this because I also like toying around with metalworking, and this one blade can cut steel and aluminum and stuff like that, and wood, so I don't have to constantly be switching back and forth, especially for cutting miters. That's kind of nice. Again, compound miter. I do not have this affixed to the bench. Oftentimes when we work with this, we run a cord and actually work over there. For any of you that are wondering, the 2x4 on the ground is so that my wife knows where to stop when she parks her car. Pretty messy workbench here. Like I said, a work in progress. I've been unpacking boxes. Don't judge me. Here we've got a little scroll saw, just a cheap scroll saw, again, just so that you can start working on stuff. For the home shop, I'm not advocating for crappy tools, but if it allows you to get more tools and start doing more projects, go for it. I mean, don't buy the cheapest piece of junk when you're coming to saws, because next thing you know, you're just going to constantly be replacing them. But I mean, don't go out and, unless, I mean, if you have the money, do it. Awesome, because that's good for you. But don't be afraid of buying, you know, like these. I think this is the brand you can get, I want to say at Menards. I mean, they're cheap tools, but I've literally never had them fail. Granted, I've only had them for probably 4 years, but I think if you can spend $100 on a tool and get it to last you 4 years, there's no sense in complaining in that. We've got some shop lights that I just hung here. I haven't wired them in. I'm not sure how well the lighting is going to look here, but I haven't wired them into the garage lights just because it's not a permanent solution. I just wanted to add some lights. You might notice up on the ceiling here, I've got fishing rod storage that's eventually going to be on like a pulley system. I've built it up in the top there. There's a pin that you can take out and the whole thing swivels down. I figure wall space, as you can kind of see, I don't have a ton of wall space. I'm already using tons of wall space just with the random crap around the garage. So I figured ceiling space though, not really a hot commodity. So if I can use that up, that's awesome. So chop saw, scroll saw. I've also got the Performax drill here, the drill press. Again, I have no problems with this. Probably not the most calibrated tool, not the most perfect tool, but I'll tell you what, it can drill a vertical hole a lot better than I can. I got a stereo. I actually have 2 stereos here. This one is super old and just not really that great of a stereo, but hey, it gets music in the shop. My grandfather gave me this, or I guess I inherited it from him recently. So it's got AM FM tuner with a receiver, so I've got a couple of speakers around the shop. Just stuck some clamps around some places just as storage. This is kind of neat. I just drill holes and put little dowels places to hold things. It's kind of a simple little way to hold things. Same with these little drill things here, hole cutting drill bits, and my diamond coated blades for glass and things like that. This shelving and this workbench was actually here when we bought the house, so that's kind of cool. But the fact that they're not at the same level and stuff like that, you know, all of that's making it kind of tough to really use this garage. These shelves were kind of awesome when we moved in. It really enabled me to unpack and not take so much of the garage space, but as you can kind of tell, crap's just kind of piled up there. Same thing with all of this. Basically, it's really temporary solutions. It's just somewhere to put some junk. I've got some chainsaws and stuff like that around, old chairs, a couple of project motorcycles that are probably inevitably going to go away. I'm not sure when or why or how. The little scooter's never going anywhere. Not going anywhere. That's gonna stick around. Used to have a saltwater aquarium, so I got some of that stuff over there. Can't bring myself to get rid of it. Again, another light. Eventually I'm gonna have a whole bunch of lighting in here, that I'm gonna wire into another light switch. We've got a fire pit, some pallets, some old RC cars, some shop lights over there. I built a firewood rack here, so that's just so I can keep some wood dry, that sort of stuff. Eventually in this area, I'm probably gonna hang up my heavy bag over here and do some of that. Over here, I got this really makeshift little wood storage area. I used to have it piled up over there just on the ground, and I built this. It's gotten kind of disorganized and messy, but we built this just so that we could have a better idea of what wood we have and stuff like that. And then I put a couple of bins down here as a scrap area, so I'm not constantly just throwing wood in the garbage, but at the same time, I have an idea of what scraps I have so that, you know, if I can use some of it, great. If I can burn some of it, better use of that wood. I guess one of the little things I've got over here that I didn't mention, my bench vise. It's just a little bench vise, but it's come in pretty handy just for a little surface to hammer on or something, you know, another hand, that kind of thing. And then another thing that I got from my grandfather, a little Blaze. I got another little thing from my grandfather here, a little drawer. And I just put some holes in the back of this and screwed it right into my workbench. Not gonna put anything super heavy in there, so I'm not really worried about breaking that off. Pretty goofy little things here. We put a little hook there for the torch. I put a little socket that I actually buried into the side of the workbench for my cheap torque wrench there. Some of that's silly little stuff. Same thing with the back of the workbench, drilled little holes and just put little random tools in there. Same thing with something like this, just put a little hole in the back of the container. Over by my drills, I did the same thing with the container that the drill bits are stored in. Just drill a hole in the back and put a screw in the wall. Gives you a place to put it. You know, again, wall space, pretty valuable, but in little areas like this, it's tough to utilize space like that. At least for me, I haven't gotten real good at utilizing that space. Eventually, maybe I will, but this is how I'm utilizing it right now. I do have a SketchUp drawing in the computer and in the basement for basically about 18 feet worth of workbench that's going to go there. An 8-foot section, the miter saw recessed, another 8-foot section, drill press recessed, and then I'm thinking this little area here is eventually going to be table saw and stuff like that. That wall, hopefully all of that shelving can come down and the whole wall can be opened up when we have this workbench done, and that whole area can be, you know, planer, jointer, that sort of stuff in the future. Maybe bandsaw, that kind of stuff. So essentially, that's my shop. Welcome to it. So hopefully in the future, you'll start to see some project videos come out. Not sure what we're gonna start with. I've got a lot of stuff that I wanna build. My wife is getting into woodworking, so we can see if we can do some woodworking together, and we'll go from there. So thanks for hanging out. See you next time.